What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel this week. My name is Priscilla. I'm a Nigerian women's wear designer based in the UK. In this video I'm going to be trying out a technique that I've never actually tried before, and some of you guys have actually requested it in the past. I'm going to be showing you sort of my first time trying the smocking or sharing technique, which is something that you use to add elasticity to parts of your garment or sort of add gathering in places such as the sleeve, around the waist, or your whole outfit if you even wanted to. I also have to say that there were two tutorials that I watched that really helped to explain the process to me. The first one was with Wendy, and she sort of showed how she reinvented this basic shirt into an off-the-shoulder top. The second tutorial that helps was by Professor Pink Cushion, and that one really broke it down, very basic, very raw and straight to the point. I'm going to link both of them down below, so if this video doesn't really hit home for you, you can go ahead and watch those other two. So without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. I ended up making sort of a tube peplum top using this really soft pink material. You just have to ensure that your fabric is on the lighter side in terms of weight, because you want it to gather nice and softly. So I'm going to leave all materials down below, all tutorials linked down below, and no patterns were required. So let's jump straight into this video. For this project, I worked with the following materials. I have my fabric scissors, a tape measure for my measurement, and an empty bobbin that I'll be using to wind up my elastic thread. I also have my small scissors and a spool of elastic thread. I ended up using the whole thing because I did quite a few lines of the sharing or smocking. I also have matching pink thread that goes with my fabric, and I only really needed 1 meter of fabric because I was just making a tube top. So you will need to measure around your bust, which is sort of the widest part of your top body, and how long you want the top to be. For the elastic thread, you would need to hand roll it into your bobbin, and the reason is because if you sort of roll it using the bobbin winder on your machine, you might overstretch the thread. So this was the one part of, I think, the whole project that made it really tiring, because for every time the bobbin finished, I had to hand roll thread into it. So now I'm just going and dropping it into my bobbin case down below, and I'm going to be picking up that bobbin thread using my pink thread on top, because the bobbin thread is going to be on the wrong side of the fabric and the pink thread will be on the right side of the fabric. So now you need to ensure your machine is set to the longest stitch length and the tension is at average, and this would allow the smocking or the sharing to come out in a way that you're happy with. So I would suggest doing a test first to just see if the outcome is actually going well, and then you know if you need to adjust anything, and you know that it's actually going to work when you do it a few times. So as you can see, I did it the first time and it actually didn't work very well, but the second time I went ahead and made the stitch length long and kept the tension at average. It turned out the way I wanted it to be. Now that we figured out our settings, we can go ahead and figure out how much fabric we need. So in terms of fabric width, ideally you want to work with at least 1 plus half of your width or twice of your width, because at the end of the day, everything is going to be sort of gathered in around your top half, which is what we're doing for this top. So I ended up cutting a rectangle that was 17 inches long and 50 inches wide. So because my fabric already has horizontal lines, it made it a lot easier to sew in the sort of sharing stitch. But if your fabric doesn't, I suggest you actually draw in the line and stitch along the line. You can decide on a separation that you're comfortable with. You can decide to separate the stitches by ½ inch, 1 centimeter. Just know that the tighter the stitches are together, the more sort of intense the gathering is going to be. So I decided to work with a separation of ½ inch, and believe me, every time the bobbin thread finished, I had to roll in more bobbin thread, which is the elastic thread, by hand. I think I ended up doing this like 4 or 5 times, and that's what made sort of making the top a bit longer than it should have. So as you sew along, as you do more stitch lines, just remember to stretch out the parts that are gathering up, so you don't end up having any puckering or gathering along the front or the back of the top. So about 3 or 4 hours later, this is what the top is looking like. I was actually really happy with the outcome. After the first 2 stitches, I wasn't sure if this was going to work, but I think when I was getting to sort of the bottom parts, I was like, this is actually working, thank God. So this is what all of that material ended up shrinking down to. It reduced by about half the size by the time I was done doing all of the stitches or the shirring. So now that we have this all done, we're going to be joining up the center back stitch, and now I'm just pinning together the open center back using some pins. And when you do this, just ensure that you pull all of the threads, so the elastic and the pink thread, just pull them out to the sort of a raw edge, because you want to be able to catch them with your stitch. You have the option of tying a knot for each stitch that you did so they don't unravel, or you can just really stitch everything in such a way that you catch each elastic thread and each top thread when you sew from the top all the way to the bottom. Now I'm going to be sewing using a normal stitch length with average tension from the beginning all the way to the end, and as you can see, I'm ensuring I'm pulling all of the elastic threads to the raw edge or the open side of this center back seam. I ended up having about 1.5 inch of sort of seam allowance because of how I did the shirring stitch. So now I'm just going in to overlock that seam and trimming out the extra bits and that seam allowance so I don't have a bulk of material on the center back. The last thing you need to do is to finish off your hem, so the top and the bottom, and I'm just folding the top side or the top neckline end by 1 centimeter twice, and then I'm just sewing that all the way around. So I'm going to do this for the top and for the hem. After this, make sure to give your top a good press to relax all of the edges, to relax all of the gatherings, so everything looks nice and smooth. I think what I really find satisfying about this is it actually fits comfortable on. It's not too tight. I just say that if you want it to fit a bit tighter around your chest, you can go back in and do an additional stitch just to ensure that it doesn't slip off when you have this top on. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video all the same. If you do recreate it, make sure to tag me on social media and I'd love to see your work. Until my next video, have a good morning, afternoon and evening wherever you are. Bye. If you want to support the work I do and ensure I keep making videos here on YouTube, I have a Patreon account which gives you the opportunity to become my Patreon at different tier levels. There's going to be a link down below for anyone who wants to explore exclusive content, tips and tricks all about fashion and world.